This is TWiT. So, well, let's start with Nvidia and ARM, because that was an interesting story. Now, remember that SoftBank bought ARM for $32 billion. What was it, 4 years ago? Not too long ago.
16.
And as we mentioned before, SoftBank running into a little fiscal difficulty. Their investment fund, well, they invested in Uber and WeWork. Need I say more? So, so trying to scare up a little cash. Now, I was way out of line. I predicted, they're going to get $60 billion for ARM.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, well, I wasn't too far off.
Much.
$40 billion they got.
I know.
That's a nice $8 billion turnaround in 4 years.
Given where they are now.
Yeah.
25% over 6 years. Annualized rate of return on that's only like 0.25. So
that's pretty good. I'd like to get that in my
100%
portfolio.
These days, yeah.
I'd sell Twig in a heartbeat.
Considering after WeWork, anything is important.
Yeah, anything looks good. So, but the real concern and question is, of course, for all of us. I mean, ARM is a very important architecture. As you all know, ARM is a chip designer. They don't make chips. They license their architecture to a lot of people, Qualcomm, Apple, Samsung, and on and on and on. So their designs are really important to the mobile world, increasingly important to server world and desktop world, thanks to Apple. And I guess Microsoft Windows on ARM.
Do you see this as a way of Nvidia saying, you know what, Apple, we're still going to get your coin?
Oh, no. Actually, I think it's the server play that's more interesting than Nvidia, but I should let our chip expert weigh in on that. Why would Nvidia want ARM for $40 billion?
So really focused, I wrote about this. I really focused on the data center because anytime Nvidia, think about it, anytime Nvidia, a GPU, there's got to be an x86 or an ARM computer attached to it. And so what happens is, you know, I'm stuck next to Intel everywhere. In the data center, there's increasing focus on, price performance, machine learning, those kind of workloads. So having access to the ARM instruction set is going to be increasingly important to them in the data center. And no one's really focused on this. And even I wasn't too much attention to it until I started looking at the numbers. But NVIDIA, this deal also gets them into the car. NVIDIA got kicked out of Tesla, remember? But NVIDIA is in the cars, have lots of ARM computers, and there are lots of sensors. You need an operating system to manage your car, and it can't all be dependent on the cloud. So this puts NVIDIA really in an excellent spot there. So I'm going to just put that in there because I wasn't really thinking about it. And so, and for those of y'all who may not realize it, ARM is the application processor inside pretty much every single phone out there. There may be one or two like old school, like Intel made a crappy.
Intel wanted to get in that mobile market. They made these scale chips and they were a flop. They eventually sold it off. So ARM owns mobile, really. And
so ARM owns mobile and go on.
No, I was just going to reinforce your point. If you can own mobile and you can own the data centers, you're going to sell the lion's share of chips. You don't even care about desktop computing. That's a small fraction of the overall computing market.
Yeah, and ARM is making headroads there. Now, I will say, the data still belongs to Intel x86. I don't see that. I mean, ARM has been working on this 10 years. First ARM-based server came out in like 2011. So, and we're only now, like in 2018, maybe it was 2019 that Amazon introduced the Graviton computing instance based on ARM. So that's been like a 10-year journey to get it to there. But I think NVIDIA recognized that they have to own an instruction set going forward. And you see this, think about in the last 10, maybe even 12 years, you saw Amazon, Google, Apple, all of them take an architecture license and start developing their own chips. NVIDIA looks at that, and that's a real problem it's a problem for Intel, it's a problem for NVIDIA. So owning ARM really keeps them in the loop there. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. Now there's some antitrust issues. Regulators have to approve it. There's some real concern in the UK because ARM is a UK company. Nvidia has said we're not going to move ARM out of the UK. And for people like Apple, we are going to, of course, honor all of ARM's existing licenses and continue those. Of course they will. That's why they bought it. They don't want fewer.
Well,
they don't want less business.
So I think the question becomes, I don't think ARM is going to shut down licenses, like the big instruction set CPU licenses, right? So you'll always be able to get that from ARM, even if it's owned by Nvidia. What I am curious about is, are they going to continue building the software that runs around that? So things like getting, bus from the compute to memory. They make actually lots of software to make
I didn't realize
it easier to slot your ARM processor into your existing SoC, right? So they may like, we don't really care so much about that. And so then companies that rely on that, most companies, the more advanced you are, the less likely you're going to rely on that. Yeah. So, and then the other thing, because I'm an IoT person, I have to do it. ARM has spent like $1 billion buying an IoT services business with like Treasure Data, with Pelion, with some other acquisitions in the last few years. I don't know what happens with that. They were going to spin that out to SoftBank. Then they're like, no, we're not going to spin it out. And now it looks like, what will NVIDIA do with that?